Well, greetings, test takers. This is Dean Tenney. I'm coming to you from my studio here in fabulous Las Vegas. We are going to be explicating a Series 6 practice test. We have a collaboration with TestGeek Exam Prep LLC and my channel. And as part of that collaboration, you're going to get a free look, as you can see here on the screen, of TestGeek Exam LLC's what are called quick notes, which is kind of an explication or Cliff Notes version of the Series 6. So you can see here, comes with some additional practice questions. What we're going to be doing is doing a practice exam, and I'm going to explicate it with you, that comes from TestGeek LLC, Exam Geek LLC, and its managing member, Brian Lee. And as part of that collaboration, my viewers get a 20% discount on all of Brian's products and services. So for example, if you want to buy a copy of this practice exam as a PDF with an answer key and rationale, that would be, it's $19.95, but with a 20% discount, it comes out to be $16. If you want to add to it the quick notes, that's call it $40, and with the discount, that comes out to $32. And if you want to go all in on his paid supplement to your study materials, neither Brian or myself, my channel is a free supplement or Brian's paid supplement, are trying to replace your study material. We're just trying to offer you some additional resources. In Brian's case, a bridge from your study materials to the actual test. There is a correlation to how you do on this practice exam and how you do on the test itself. If you want to go all in on the paid supplement, that's usually $80, but for our viewers, it's $20 off. So 79 is whatever it actually ends up being $64. Okay, that being said, let's go ahead and get started on explicating this practice exam. Now, if you want to use this as an intellectual inventory, what you want to do is, as we go through it, just to hit the pause button, see how you answered, see how I explain it, and then you can kind of use it as a kind of a mark of where you're at. I'm not going to be, using the same rationales that Brian provide. So if you buy the PDF and answer key rationale, some of it I'm sure will be the same, but might be some differences in terms of how I lay out something and how Brian lays out something. He's more than happy without buying any of his products to discuss any of these questions. You can always certainly leave a comment with me, and I'm more than happy to go over that with you, but you can also contact Brian as well. All right, so let's get started. What is considered a customer complaint? A customer call complaining about bad service. Well, that happens all the time. Well, all the time in business is normal course of business, not all the time, hopefully with user rep. An email ranting about how the market is not doing well. An email ranting just because he wanted to. An email about a meritless transactions regarding the IRA and the transaction. The key point here is it has to be a written complaint. So that is what Brian is getting at in this question. The answer is D, and then written complaints have to be handled by supervisors. So D. A very young professional has $5,000 to invest. He's seeking income and moderate growth. Income and moderate growth. So we look at our suitability questions. Sometimes can be tough because they end up being judgment questions. But based on this scenario, municipal bonds, there's nothing in this about his tax bracket. And growth won't give him any kind of income, so I'm tossing that out. High yield bonds, junk bonds, less than investment grade, that seems more than moderate risk in terms of credit risk, default risk. An aggressive growth fund, no, that's not moderate. Government bonds, too safe. A sector fund, too aggressive. D seems like just about right? Large cap growth fund and corporate bond fund seems like a good asset allocation in that circumstance. According to the pipeline theory, this is also known as subchapter M, or the conduit pipeline theory. If we didn't have this, what would happen is the corporation would make money, pay taxes, pay a dividend to my mutual fund. My mutual fund would pay taxes, and then they would pass that through to me, and I'd pay taxes. The IRS has been kind enough to say that as long as the mutual fund passes through 90% of the net investment income, they'll wait and get that from the individual mutual fund shareholder. That's called DI 90. I think is a good memory aid to remember that. So the D and die 90 is the dividends from the stocks in the mutual fund. The I is for the interest on the bonds in the mutual fund, less the expenses of the mutual fund. As long as they pass through that 90%, they'll wait and get it from the shareholder. So according to who's taxed from the contributions. I think I should say distributions. Let me just, I think I have this as a PDF. Let me kill this. Any typos or anything like that. I turn this into a Word document when I'm doing the explications. I'm always pushing Brian to get it out to me. He's always tinkering to make sure his exams are up to date. And that might be on Brian, on me pushing Brian to get this thing out. But anyways, let me see if I can get this fixed here. Anyways, it's the distribution. Let's just call that distribution instead of contributions. That should say distributions. 4, in a dividend diversified plan. By the way, just before I move on, that's one of the major disadvantages of a mutual fund is you give up tax control of your investments, right? So not only pass through here, but if there's a capital gains distribution that's coming out to you, the mutual fund share will you taxes on that as well. All right, number 4. In a diversified plan, the percentage of one's issuer's outstanding stock that an investment company may own, we don't want you being taking over corporations. And, mutual funds have to meet redemption requests. So if you go past 10%, you're going to be a principal stockholder and you're going to be subject to volume limitations. That would be a bad thing because remember, you got to stand willing to meet redemption requests. So a mutual fund is not allowed to own more than 10% of the target company's stock. Target company being the corporation that's in the mutual fund portfolio. Which of the following is not taxed? Which of the following is not taxed to the investor? Watching the NAV of my mutual fund go up is not taxable. Unrealized means I haven't actually redeemed the fund. So if I bought the fund at an NAV of $10 and now the NAV is $20, but I haven't redeemed, I don't owe taxes on that $10. Capital gains and the long-term accounts. Yeah, capital gains means realized. So for B, C, and D says we have either redeemed the mutual fund or the mutual fund has sold the securities. And so the answer number 5 is A. Unrealized gains are never taxed. A registered rep wrote an article and had a third party verify and check the information. The firm published the article. What must be on the article? Either the name of the member firm or the person who, prepared it. But here it's A is our best answer. We always have to clearly and prominently disclose the member firm. So it's not asking whose name is on the preparations. Means what are the people going to see when they see the advertisement, and they should see the name of the member firm. 7, a client invested in a growth fund, but returns have been minimal for a while and not much return. What would you tell the client? What would you tell the client? Tell her that it was her choice. That doesn't sound like good thing to say. Tell her it's been stable and expect the same result. Well, no, then why are we going to stick around? According to objective, growth fund is the best suit. Yeah, I mean, that's, if we told somebody it's a long-term investment plan, we can't give a nilly and change our mind. So C is the best answer to that. 8. In RR, register rep is hosting a seminar at a retired resident housing facility and like them to take advantage of the aggressive growth fund. This is a good idea as long as it brings you bring your principal. This is permitted and not permitted in violation. No prior approval is needed as long as you receive the retirement owner's approval. Well, given that answer set, it looks like B. I mean, there's a couple of red flags here. It's a retired community. I'm not sure how much aggressive growth they want. And most importantly, we're not supposed to give blanket recommendations. 9, what is the amount of a Roth IRA that you can take out without tax prior to age 59 and a half? Now, remember, you're funding the Roth with after-tax money. So that's money you've already paid taxes on. So, the IRS doesn't care about the money you already paid taxes on. So it's D. I would definitely also know there's no required minimum distribution, no RMD from a Roth. 10. Under FINRA rules, you must keep a list of people who are on the do not call list, the phone numbers of all your clients, a list of clients that don't want to be called, a list of all prospective buyers. The answer is A, we have to maintain a do not call list. I made it through my, decades long career with, I thought, a pretty limited number of people who have asked me not to bother them. I think, we actually do this in a professional way. We're more likely to get people who want to hear from us. But anyways, the answer is A. A Coverdell educational plan allows for all the following except. I got to be careful on the except. So they're asking me one of these things is not allowed. Qualified educational expenses for either primary or secondary education, that is allowed. I'm looking for something that is not. Transfer to a sibling is allowed. I'm looking for something that is not. That irrevocable gift to minors. No. I think what Brian's trying to do here is confuse you with a Uniform Gift to Minors Act or Uniform Transfer Minors Act account. That's not what this question is about. It's about a Coverdell. And so the answer is C. Now, if you are going to buy the PDF of this for $16, one thing you might want to consider doing on this exam is turning questions like this into what I call a poor man or lazy man's flashcard. And what I mean by that is you might want to take like number 11 and get rid of the except and get rid of the C. And then what you might want to do is put, okay, let me get a smaller font here and make this number 1, make this number 2, and make this number 3. And now maybe the night before I test, I go through this practice exam and read my questions and my right answer. A Coverdell educational plan allows all the following. 1, qualified educational expenses for either primary or secondary education. 2, transfer to a sibling. 3, tax-free growth of investments when used for education. Now, if you don't want to spend the $16, by the way, you can print this more than once. You could use it to mark it up and do it night of or morning of or both. Some of these are, spot on. The other thing you could do is just hit the pause button, make a flashcard as we go through this together. Ones like that I tell you I would consider doing that. 12, an advertising prospectus may be used for a new fund for which purpose? So an advertising prospectus. Sometimes this is known as a tombstone. And a tombstone has on it, even a real tombstone at graveyard doesn't have much information, right? It says birth date, when they died, loving father, husband. For more complete information, see the obituary. That's what a tombstone would say. In our business, what a advertising prospectus, aka a tombstone, would say, this is neither an offer to sell nor a solicitation to buy the following security. An offering is only made by a copy of the prospectus. Read it carefully. Do not send money. Right? So it's informational purposes only. Woo, Series 6 license. That's what you're getting. That's what you're getting. You're getting a Series 6 registration. I don't like when people call it licenses because it's really not a license as much as it's a registration. But that being said, this allows you to sell common stock and open-end mutual fund. By the way, for your own edification, you can also, what it really allows you to do is sell mutual funds in the primary market. B as in boy is the right answer. But you can also sell a closed-end fund on the IPO, the initial public offering, because that would be a primary transaction. But, that's just for your own edification. I know that you probably, maybe you know this, maybe you don't. I would foresee or forecast in your future another registration. Either a 65, 660, 365, or I can't tell you how many sixes come back and get a 7. Anyways, really make sure I'm going to link to this TestGeek, Brian's intro to the Series 6 from his YouTube channel. And I'm going to link the TestGeek website, both in the description of this explication, as well as in a pinned comment, but I'll also pin a comment with a link to my mutual fund lecture, which I think would serve you well. And it would serve you well if you happen to be coming back 465 as well. So if that's your journey. And P.S. we're trying to build up some more stuff for you as Series 6s. I apologize. It took us a while on the channel to get some stuff that's just for you Series 6s. So hopefully we'll have some more for you soon. I'm going to explicate the content out. I'm going to do some things. But until then, the stuff I have there in the playlist on 6 is pretty good, particularly that mutual fund lecture. Please check that out if you get a chance. It's a couple hours, but you know, you can always hit the pause button. All right, 14. A customer is most concerned about inflation. Which of the following is the most appropriate? This is very much a test issue. You know, it's not that it's great as compared to other things, but variable annuity, because of that separate account or that sub account, is certainly going to be better than these others. I'm coming to you where we just reported a CPI figure of almost 8%. Oh my God. So, you know, if you have a fixed annuity or CD or a money market, you're going to get killed. Money market depends how quick short-term rates catch up to it. I don't know if it's helpful. I think of a variable annuity as a mutual fund with an insurance wrapper. I'll try to get the lecture up there on variable annuities for you. Put in the comment section if you want me to do a little variable separate discussion for you. And I'm more than happy to do that. Anyways, which expenses are deducted from the separate account of a variable life policy? The stuff that has to do with the insurance, right? You know, the mortality and expense risk fees. You know, when I'm teaching 6, I use the word ASS, right? That comes out of the check, the premiums, the payments. A D. 16. The Ukema Growth Fund has an offering price of $7 and a net asset value is $754. Wow. That's kind of interesting that I can buy this for $7 and the net asset value is $754. You know, we don't pay people to get involved in a fund, so that must be a closed-end fund. I mean, that's the only time the NAV could be something less or more than, the public offering breakage, because in a loaded fund, the NAV plus the sales charge equals the public offering price, right? So I know that that's going to be a closed-end fund. So let me see if I have that choice. Let's take care of that one first. So we know that's 2. And then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to determine what is the sales charge, potential sales charge, because I don't know yet, of the Willamette fund. And that will help me because the maximum sales charge, very testable, is 8.5%. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take 1783. I'm going to minus 1640. And I'm going to divide that by the public offering price, what I think might be the public offering price in this thing. It could just be a closed-end fund. I don't know yet, but that's what I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so let me now get out my calculator. By the way, I would definitely be able, as a Series 6 test taker, to make manipulations of, when given the NAV and the POP, which I've been given here, figure out the percentage sales charge. And so I'm going to take 1783. I'm going to minus 1640. And if that is a sales charge, I'm not sure it is, but if it is, let's put that there. It's $1.43. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the $1.43 and I'm going to divide that by 1783. And I get potential at 8% rounding. So it looks like that what I was looking for to see is if I come up over 8.5%, it's got to be a closed-end fund or somebody's in trouble, right? Because the maximum sales charge in a mutual fund is 8.5. So $1.43. I'm just checking my math. I'm terrible at arithmetic, so I'm just checking my math here. Yeah, I'm saying that if that is a loaded fund, it's 8%. So I don't think I really can make a determination based on that math. So let's see what my choices remaining to. Willamette could be either, a closed end or open end fund. I think that's what that kind of reveals to me. So let me get my. Now, by the way, I like this question here that Brian has here. The answer here I'm going to say is a C, but I just want you to be clear. If I had done that math and that came up to something over 8.5, then I would have said, well, William, that must be a closed-end fund. So the answer here is C, 2 and 3. All right, 17. The assumed interest rate is used to calculate. The assumed interest rate is used once we annuitize, right? So once we annuitize, they're going to turn our accumulation units into annuity units. And we got to explain to the customer, based on the assumed interest rate, why the check is going up or down. I like that. Again, if you're going to do the poor man's flashcard thing, you're going to have to explain that, or get tested on being able to explain that. And so again, maybe we make this a poor man or lazy man's flashcard. And then again, the night before or morning of, I just read all that. Read the questions and the right answers. Questions and right answers. 18, the separate account. I know if it's helpful, but Dean thinks is not testable, but I think of a variable annuity as a mutual fund with an insurance wrapper. A mutual fund with an insurance wrapper. The separate account is the mutual fund. Remember, in a fixed annuity, the insurance company says, Dean, when you buy a fixed annuity, we take your money, we put it into our general account, we make investments, and we hope to make more than we promised you. And then I go, hey, I figured out what you guys have been doing, man. You've been making more than you promised me. The insurance company says, well, Dean, I think we misled you about that. If you would like, Dean, instead of taking your money and putting it into the general account of our insurance company, we have these separate accounts where we'll segregate your money into one of these investment opportunities, this separate account or sub account, whatever that grows to or falls to. That's big time test fodder. That the major distinction between a fixed annuity and a variable annuity is in the fixed annuity, the insurance company is assuming the investment risk. In a variable annuity, the investment risk is assumed by the annuitant, the investor. And then remember, that money's going to grow tax deferred because we don't get any constructive receipt. I would make sure you have a general understanding of variable annuities. Once we get to 59.5, it's LIFO. So you can expect that 2, 3, 4 questions here. Brian is saying they share some of the same very similars. I told you, in fact, for all intents and purposes, they're the same things. But yeah, the thing that gives the variable annuities juice is you're not getting constructive receipt. And since you must reinvest, it's going to grow tax deferred. And that's why we refer to this as a non-qualified retirement plan. Now, in terms of suitability, you should have all your other things maxed out. And the other thing that makes a variable annuity very attractive is you can turn it into an income stream when you annuitize. You can't do that with a mutual fund either. So A. By the way, you should definitely know when you get out, it's going to be taxed at ordinary income tax rates. 19. Your client and his wife own shares of the mutual fund in a joint account with rights of survivorship. Each has a 50% ownership in the account. If your client were to die, which of the following is true? Please note, don't review customer accounts. If you're coming off your SIE with that testing victory, kudos. But make sure you read customer accounts. You definitely need to be able to distinguish between joint tenants with rights or survivorship, this question, where the decedent share goes to the surviving party, versus tenants in common, where the decedent share goes to their estate or beneficiary. Make sure you review that. Very testable. That whole category discussion is called customer accounts. I think I have that as one of the videos in the playlist for Series 6. Okay, 20. An investor with a large sum to invest is concerned with paying high sales charges on a mutual fund. He would like to receive a reduced sales charge, very testable. That's called a breakpoint. What share class typically offer breakpoints? And Class A shares are the ones that have the breakpoints. Listen, test takers, make sure you know about a letter of intent, good for 13 months, can be backdated 90 days. It's unilateral, it's only binding on it. Make sure you know that investment clubs don't qualify for reduced sales charges. So make sure you got that down. All the following are true regarding Coverdell educational plans, except assets may be used for primary or secondary education. That's true. Assets grow tax-free, or assets grow tax-free if used for educational purposes. That's true. Contributions are limited to 5 times the gift tax over any 5-year period. And I think what Brian's hoping to do in this question is cloud your mind about the difference between a 529, C is a 529, and a Coverdell. And make sure you have a general understanding of both of those and how they're different. You know, you're going to have some kind of comparison questions like this. Now, I think, by the way, the Coverdell, the answer to 21 is C, but remember the Coverdell's max is $2,000. So what I might consider, we've talked about this before, what I might consider in this one is get rid of the except again, get rid of the except. Get rid of the thing that's wrong. And, you know, then as I said, what I might do is put 1, 2, 3. I'm coming with the 3 full things. And then, excuse me, that should be 3. Anyways, then I might make a 4 here and put the max is 2,000 to turn that into a poor man's flash cut. You know, all my content, including what we're doing tonight, is a buffet, right? Take what you like, leave what you don't. So the answer is C. 22. XYZ has paid $1 dividend to its common shareholders for the past 5 years, while the market price has so slowly risen over time. The current yield during this time, now be careful on this one, you know, because, you know, what I would probably do is just make up my own one. Now be careful, it wouldn't change if I bought the stock, but Brian doesn't say anybody bought the stock here. I would just make up my own numbers. So, you know, I can just illustrate it to myself rather than trying to do it in my head. And so I'll just say, okay, I'm just making this number up. You should be able to crunch current yield on the desk. So that's 10%. I just made that up. Just, you know, you're going to make something up, make it easy, right? So now it says past 5 years, market price has slowly risen. So now I'm just going to do it again based on this idea that the market price has slowly risen. You know, maybe it's, I don't know, 15. I'll just make up a number, slowly risen over 5 years, maybe 13. I'm just making up a number. And then I'm just going to take my calculator and current yield is what an investment pays you divided by what it costs you. In this case, we're just looking in the market. We haven't bought anything here, but if we did, looks like that has gone down to 7.6. So I just illustrated that the answer to this question is B. Your customer has $400,000 worth of securities in his account. His spouse has $200,000 in securities, and together they have $300,000 in their joint account. I would definitely, I told you customer accounts, you need to review that. So there's a lot of overlap between the SIE and the Series 6. So good news, some of this stuff, maybe, hopefully you didn't do your SIE and just do the data dump and say, oh, I'm done. So anyways, you should definitely know that SIPC coverage is per separate customer. It's 500,000, of which no more than 250 can be cash. And so as we go through question 23, I don't see any problem with the 400,000. That's under the 500. The spouse separate tax ID number is different beneficial ownership. So his account, her account, so we're at 600. And then their joint account, I usually think it's separate tax IDs, but their joint account is going to be a separate account as well. So when we total that all up, I think they're good for $900,000 there. The death benefit of a variable annuity, death benefit of a variable life policy. The answer 24 by definition is C. Right, but because of that variable component, that separate account, that sub account, it could go up depending on what happens with the sub account or separate account. C. 25. Under a FINRA rule, which form of communication may require either prior or post approval from the firm's principals? So this is again very testable, very testable. And remember, it's going to be the one that is considered to be retail communication, because the correspondence can be either. So it looks like we're doing a correspondence here, because if it's a retail communication over 25, then it's going to be a pre-distribution. But if it's a correspondence, they get a pre or post, depending on what your supervisor wants to do. So This looks like A to me is the correspondence, and that's where the principal has the choice on how to do that. A. 26. In an annuity contract, all the following are true about accumulation units. I think of accumulation units for all intents and purposes intellectually to be like shares in a mutual fund, right? To say I have 6,000 shares in a mutual fund, or to say I have 6,000 accumulation units in a separate account, intellectually, those are pretty much the same things. And so here 26 says, how are they different? The number of units may vary, yes, right? Depending on the value of the accumulation unit and my payment, kind of like dollar cost averaging, right? I'll get more or less depending on what's going on with the value of the accumulation unit. The value of units depends on the performance of the separate account, right? That's exactly correct. Again, I think of it kind of like the NAV of a mutual fund. They are similar to shares of mutual fund. As far as Dean's concerned, intellectually, they're the same damn thing. Now, what I say as far as Dean's concerned, I'm just warning that's, what Dean thinks is not testable. The number of units are fixed. No, I like this one. Remember that what happens, they become fixed when you annuitized. So the answer there is D. Now, I'm not sure what I would do with this one. If I'm going to turn it into a Board of Man's flashcard, I'm not sure I would get rid of the except and get rid of D, because I would want you to know that the number of units become fixed when they're no longer accumulation units and they become annuity units. So I'm going to leave that one alone. According to the Securities Act of 1933, a new security may not be solicited to the public until. So 27, you remember we're going to make a registration statement with the SEC that we're going to sell brand new securities to the public. And then we're going to enter into the cooling off period, the quiet time, which is a minimum of 20 days. And we're going to be registering that. Boy, you should never say approved. The two nasty words you never use in the securities industry are the word approved or guaranteed. The answer to 27 is C. Now, if you want to hear the word guarantee, you need to talk to your insurance agent about an insurance product or your banker about a banking product. And boy, we should never imply that FINRA or the SEC approves anything, right? Anything. A customer has reported $15,000 in losses on his taxes and $10,000 in gains. So my realized gains and losses. So in my portfolio, I've closed out my investments. And when I close out, remember, unrealized means I haven't closed the investment. I haven't ended the investment. And if I net those two numbers, I'm going to have a $5,000 loss. How much of that can I take against my paycheck income, my earned income? And remember, the answer here is $3,000, and I'm going to carry the rest forward. So the answer is A. Your client's aunt has just passed away, and it informs you that she will inherit her aunt's shares and stock. This is very testable about what happens if somebody gifts securities to somebody or somebody inherits securities. Please note, you want to be careful as a reader. This is somebody who informs you she will inherit. She's concerned about the tax implications. If she sells the shares, since the app bought the shares many, many years ago, it has a large capital gain. According to the IRS, your client's cost base is going to be B. I would definitely know that. That's called a step up in the basis. So, when you die, the IRS is going to say the cost basis for the, who is it here? The client, the aunt, her cost base is going to the niece. I guess there's a niece. Does Brian say niece? I guess I have to reverse engineer niece or nephew. Yeah, she, so it's the niece. Very much a test issue. I think Brian's done a good job of, mucking this up a little bit. Now, if this was a gift, the niece, if the aunt's still alive and the niece gets it as a gift, then it would be the aunt's cost base. So be careful which one you're being asked about. Which of the following most likely represent a corporate bond fund? Which of the following most corporate bond fund? Aggressive growth. There's no such thing as aggressive growth bond. High yield. There we go. Ginnie Mae, remember, is a government-sponsored enterprises, and CMOs are carved up cash flows from that. So given that answer set, it's B. Ascending order. So ascending order means we're going from short term to long term. So we're going to go treasury bills, treasury notes 2 to 10 years, treasury bonds over 10 years. A customer has chosen to elect an annuity payment annuity payout option from his non-qualified variable annuity that will cover his wife for the next 16 years in the event of his death. And that says, which is this, hopefully pay for. These options will hopefully guarantee the payment for 16 years. Yeah, it's for at least. So if somebody has a wife 12 years out, then it stops. The answer is C. All are true of a Roth IRA. Senator Roth is the guy who came up with this idea, and Senator Roth is no longer around to protect his Roth IRA. So, I might think of a Roth IRA as having, legislative risk. There is no required. This I told you I'm the one who pushes Brian to do this. This is now 72, but there is no required minimum distribution. There is no required minimum distribution. So the answer to 33. Oh, excuse me, except. Look at that. Dean almost blew it. I didn't catch the except there. So earnings were tax-free, 33. The answer is yes. There's no required minimum distribution. Have you done that yet in your test ever? Like, Dean, you don't catch the except and you go, oh, I got an easy one. The investors may contribute after the age of 72. I told you that's been changed under the Secure Act. The test just recently reflects that. So 72 is the new one. 33, all the following are true except D, they're not qualified. You're using after-tax money. We had an earlier question, so the answer is D as in dog. An investor sold an investment at a loss and claims loss on their tax return. The IRS says that if I take the loss of my tax return, I don't wait at least 30 days to reestablish that. They think that all I did was sell it to take the loss. And are absolutely right. And so here you got to be a little careful. You could very easily miss this by saying 30 days. But I actually got to be on the other side of that to reestablish that position at a new lower cost. That would be the point. So I say, man, maybe you can come back and I took the loss, but now I want back in. And so kind of a trick here, RTFQ, that stands for read the full question. RTF, read the full answer set, be careful. So I could have very easily missed 34 with A. 35, the Alliance Growth Fund has announced it will pay a 75-cent cash dividend to all shareholders as of record Thursday, April 24th. The ex-dividend date for this fund, boy, be careful because, on your SIE, we spend all this time talking about the X date as 1 business day prior to record and to the Uniform Practice Code, which standardized keyword secondary trading and stocks. In an open-end mutual fund, you're doing business directly with the fund. And so all of the dates, the declared date, the record date, the X date, the payable date are set by the Alliance Growth Fund. And since that's the case, there's no secondary trading. We actually know who's on the shareholder list. And so in a mutual fund, the X date is the day after the record date. So be careful on that. So an open-end fund, it's a little different than if there's a secondary trading like it was on your SIE. And I would definitely know, I'm not supposed to call yet and say, hey, we buy the stock today, you get the dividend, but you wait till tomorrow, no dividend for you. Big no-no to, selling dividends. That's using that dividend as an artifice to get people to buy the fund or the stock, or the case may be. I'll just make sure you understand. I'm not telling you that's a good thing, that's a bad thing, right? So you shouldn't bash your 6 and say, oh, I want to do some breakpoint sales and sell some dividends, open some fictitious accounts. Those are all bad things. 36. Your customer notice, your customer notifies you that they're now eligible for early retirement. You indicate that they should review his account now that the time horizon has changed. When he arrives at your office, you recommend they switch the allocation from the Allied Growth Fund and the Allied Balance Fund. Which 2 statements are true? Which 2 statements are true? 1, the sale of the Allied Growth Fund is not taxable. No, it's important to know that when you get out of Fund A and go into Fund B, that is a taxable event. They assume you just redeem, which one are we redeeming here? We're redeeming the Allied Growth Fund, and that's a taxable event. So 1 is not true. 2, the sale of the yep, there we go. It's a taxable event, so that's true. Now let's see, the purchase that would be at the NAV. Yeah, assuming the fund, let's see, the TELUS, they have that kind of a combination privilege. Yeah, that's one of the advantages of being in a fund family. So that sounds reasonable. Maybe I'm not sure about 3. Let's see what 4. At the offer price, no matter what. Now, we have to let people reinvest nowadays at the NAV. So it's 2, and it's 3, which is choice C. 37. An RR has recommended to the customer that they make regular monthly payments into their mutual fund to take advantage of a fluctuating share price. This would ensure, so this is called dollar cost averaging. And very testable to know what makes dollar cost averaging work: fixed dollars invested regularly. Very testable to know what's the end result. You end up with a lower average cost than those of the underlying shares, because you're doing exactly what you should be doing, which is buying more shares when they're low and less shares when they're high. It doesn't guarantee a profit. So very much testable issue, dollar cost averaging. 38. Joe and Nancy are brother and sister who have a joint account with tenants in common at your firm in which they both own 50% of the assets. Nancy informs you their brother has passed away and presents a copy of the death certificate. She then authorizes you to transfer all of the assets in the personal account. I told you this is very testable customer accounts. The difference between tenants in common, right? I think we had a husband and wife who it was joint tenants with rights or survivorship. And it's very testable to be able to contrast the previous one, where the decedent's share goes to the surviving party and they can still act, with this one, tenants in common, where there's a fractional interest, in this case 50%, and the decedent's share goes to their state or beneficiary. That is very testable, very testable. All the following are a part of the expense ratio, except I kind of like this one. The 12B1 is a promotional expense. It's a promotional expense. And we don't typically put that into the calculation of the expense ratio. So that's for distribution of the fund. I would know that for a fund to still refer to itself as a no-load fund, the max 12B1 fee it can charge is 1/4 of 1%. And if it's a loaded fund, the max it can charge as a 12B1 fee is 1/4, 3/4 of 1%, 0.75. So 0.25 can still refer to yourself as a no-load fund. Go past that, you can no longer refer to yourself as a no-load fund, and in no circumstances can you go past 0.75, 3/4 of 1%. And to implement that, or a 12B1 fee, you're going to have a majority vote of the outside board, disinterested board. 40. An investor has made several purchases of the same mutual fund over several months. He then liquidates half the shares and reports the sale as taxes the following year. The investor did not indicate what method. Oh, this is not smart. He's using. So, if you don't indicate, on tax questions, you always got to answer what yields the most to the U.S. Treasury. And so the U.S. Treasury is going to impose upon you FIFO, the first shares you bought, which are usually ones you have a lower cost base on, are the first ones you'll sell, because that will generate a bigger tax. You don't have to do it that way if you don't want to. You could use average cost or share identification. But Brian says here, the investor did not indicate which method. 41, all the following statements concerning money market mutual funds are true, except, very testable. Right? They're not FDIC. These are mutual funds. They're highly liquid. Yep. That's why people use money market funds to park their money. They're offered a fixed NAV. The fixed NAV is $1, and they're always no load. Yes, indeed. So the answer is D. 42. Your customer age 37 is currently the owner of both a whole life insurance policy and a variable annuity, and feels they may not be adequate for her needs. She is considering changing either product for one that may give her better coverage in the long term, but is concerned about the tax implications. The registered representative, that's you, informs her that IRS 1035, so there's a question about an exchange. She may exchange any of the following tax-free except. Okay, you can't go from the variable annuity, right? I would expect a question about that exchange. And I'm not sure here if I take out the except and take out the B in terms of a poor man's, lazy man's flashcard, but expect at least a question about an exchange. 43. A registered rep would like to broaden his customer base and decides to send his firm's research report to several local banks and insurance companies. Under FINRA rules, this would be considered, yeah, institutional communications, right? Local banks and insurance companies are capable of protecting themselves. Pay attention to the rules and regs because two reasons. My guess is that after you pass your 6, you're going to be taking a 63. There's very few states that do not require 63 and very few firms that don't. And then that's going to be a distinction between retail investors and the protections that are afforded to them on your 63 versus institutional customers who are capable of protecting their own assets, their own interests. And so, you know, I think this, for most of you, this is probably the second leg of your testing journey. So, you know, just, you know, the main thing is pass. Make sure you lay the base that you may need for future exams. So just telling you now, the 63 is a legal test about what it means to say you're an institutional investor, retail, registration of the broker dealer, you know, the reps, all that kind of stuff. Anyways, 44. An investor may invest in a variable annuity in all the following methods, except, I mean, you're kind of confused if you want to have periodic payment and immediate payout. So I mean, you're kind of confused. You're putting money in at the same time you're getting money out. No. So the answer to 44 is D. 45, all the following are with regards to a Roth as opposed to a traditional except. Again, we're being asked what's going on here and how are they different. And what makes a Roth different, I think they're so sweet. I think Congress may come back and change this, but all the following are true with regards to a Roth IRA as a traditional IRA, except, yeah, remember, this is now 72, so it doesn't matter because I just told you the test question about a Roth is there is no required RMD and you're funding it after tax. Right, so the answer 45 is A. Roth IRAs are tax-free, so their earnings aren't, you know, tax deferred; they're tax-free. So you expect a couple questions on Roth. You Brian's done a couple good examples of what I think you might encounter in terms of a Roth. Big one is no required minimum distribution. 46. Yeah, you should definitely know that arbitration is binding. There's no appeals to arbitration. So, you know, now the customer bound by this has to sign the arbitration agreement, but if the customer doesn't sign, we're not going to open the account. So the answer is D. That's an aim and shoot point click question. You don't get a lot of those. So make sure you get all the aim and shoot point click questions you're entitled to. A registered rep decides to place a trade in a mutual fund for his customer. The RR, the registered representative, that's you, to receive written authorization when placing the order if he decides any of the following. So what constitutes taking discretion? If I'm going to make a decision about action, asset, or amount, that's discretion. So I don't need discretion for time and price. So, you know, I use the 3 A's. The 3 A's is what I use. So which mutual fund? Let's call that just to show you the 3 A's. I don't know if you learned this on your SIE. So asset. And choice B, we're making a decision about the asset. And then the amount, that's the quantity. And then whether to buy or sell, asset, action. So I think a good way to get these, ladies and gentlemen, is the 3 A's. If the 3 A's are present, it's not a discretionary order. But if I'm going to make a decision about B, I'm making a decision about the asset. C, I'm making a decision about the amount. D, I'm making a decision about the whether to buy or sell. Any of those would require me to have trading authorization on the account. So time and price does not constitute taking discretion. 48. 48. Because her age 60 will be retiring this year, would like her registered representative to review her portfolio. She has $400,000 in her 401k. She's going to be traveling for the next several years. Due to her family history of longevity, she's got good DNA. Her greatest fear is running out of money, and she'd like to invest for moderate growth and income. It's the second time we've seen this as a suitability question. Which portfolio would be most appropriate for her situation? Which portfolio would be most appropriate for her situation? A balanced portfolio, of growth funds and bond funds. Now, I miss these suitability questions all the time because I'm aggressive and think you should have probably more than an asset allocation of stocks than you probably should. But anyways, I think A sounds pretty good. I like A so far. Let's see what else is available to us. So not only do we want to RTFQ, read the full question, We also want to do RTFA, read the full answer set, to see if perhaps there isn't something better. High yield bonds, no. Government bonds, municipals, no. Yeah, I think by process of elimination, that seems to be our best answer. 49. According to FINRA rules, sales ledger sent to retail customers must be kept for the vast majority of brokerage firm records are 3. You know, I would know that customer complaints are 4 years, money laundering is 5 years, very few records are lifetime and 6. The vast majority of brokerage firm records are 3. A trade that is made between firms in an unlisted security is said to be traded. So if it's a broker dealer buying from another broker dealer, that's an over-the-counter transaction. I don't know if you remember how much of that you remember from your SIE. All right, so I don't know how you did. I hope you found that helpful. Maybe you picked up a couple more things you didn't know before we went through this together. And, you know, maybe makes you feel a little better about it. And we will be putting this on the channel. As I said, put your comments in there. Tell us what you'd like to see. And like I said, we are going to fill out that Series 6 playlist. It's been a while since we've had the time and opportunity to kind of give you Series 6s some content like this. So remember, TestGeek Exam Prep LLC, there'll be a link to the website, a link to Brian's YouTube introduction of the Series 6, a link to my mutual fund lecture, and you remember, the deal is you can get the PDF and the answer key and rationale for $16 with the discount code Guru20. You can get the quick notes that goes with it. That brings, I don't know, 30 pages or something of the additional notes with, you know, beautiful charts and things like that. That's with the discount, it's $34. 40 times 20, yeah, $32, somewhere in there. Don't hold me, I could be off at 10 or 20 cents. And if you want to go all in on the videos, all the videos that Brian has available for Series 6 as a paid supplement, that's usually $80, but with the discount minus 16, and I think that's what, $64. All right, so like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time I put something in the 6 playlist. I might see you for 63, and I might see you for 65 in those playlists. So that would be my guess in your future journeys. Hey, do me a favor. If you know somebody at your firm that's just starting their testing journey with the SIE, there's a lot of content there for them. So please refer them to the channel. I would appreciate that. Thank you. Talk to you next time.